The alien fleet arrived on Earth under the cover of a dark night, their massive ships hidden in the shadows of the moon. The visitors were from a distant star system, one that had traveled across the galaxy to study the strange, primitive planet below. The aliens, known as the Zorvans, were advanced beyond imagination. Their ships could travel faster than light, their weapons could disintegrate entire cities in seconds, and their technology was light years ahead of anything humans could ever dream of. But what baffled the Zorvans most was Earth itself. The planet had been monitored from space for centuries, and the aliens had always been puzzled by humanity's strange ways. Despite their impressive advancements, humans still relied on weapons that seemed outdated: guns, knives, and even bows and arrows. The Zorvans had long since abandoned such tools, favoring energy beams and advanced robotics. Why would humans continue to use weapons from the past when they had the potential to create far better ones? "Let us observe them," suggested Commander Zira, the leader of the Zorvan expedition. "Maybe we can learn something about them, something that explains their strange attachment to these primitive tools." The other Zorvans nodded in agreement. Their mission was to observe, not to interfere, but they couldn't help but feel curiosity bubbling up inside them. They had to understand. The Zorvans landed in the middle of a vast, open field in the United States. They were cloaked, invisible to the naked eye, as they scanned the area for any signs of military activity. They had chosen this location because it was close to a human military base, one known for using old-fashioned weapons in combat training. Through their advanced sensors, the Zorvans saw something that immediately grabbed their attention. A group of human soldiers were preparing for a training exercise. They weren't using lasers or other advanced technology. Instead, they were practicing with rifles, the same kind of guns that had been in use for hundreds of years. The Zorvans watched as the soldiers moved in perfect formation, their eyes focused on the target ahead. The soldiers didn't need to speak. Their actions were precise, their movements smooth, as if they had rehearsed this drill countless times. Why do they still rely on these archaic devices? Zira wondered aloud. There must be something more to it. The Zorvans observed the humans for hours, taking notes on everything they saw. They watched the soldiers as they fired their rifles at targets. Each shot was accurate. Each soldier seemed perfectly trained. The Zorvans were impressed by the human skill, but they still couldn't understand why they hadn't moved on to more advanced weapons. They saw no energy beams, no plasma rifles, nothing that reflected the advanced technology the Zorvans were used to. After the exercise, a few soldiers gathered around and started talking. One soldier, a man named Sergeant Harris, was explaining the importance of maintaining old-fashioned weapons. He talked about how the rifle, though outdated compared to the alien weaponry, was reliable. It didn't require energy sources or complex systems to function. It was simple, effective, and most importantly, it was something any soldier could use no matter where they were. The Zorvans were fascinated. They had expected the soldiers to talk about their advanced technology, not about the benefits of something so simple. Zira signaled to the team to analyze the conversation, trying to understand this strange attachment to ancient weapons. "Weapons are a symbol of who we are," Sergeant Harris explained. "They represent our history. The rifle is part of our heritage. You see, it's not just about fighting. It's about the courage to stand up for what's right. We can use any weapon, but it's the soldier behind it that makes the difference." Zira's curiosity grew. She had never considered the idea that a weapon could mean something more than just a tool for destruction. She had seen entire planets fall to her people's advanced weapons, but the thought of using a tool that had meaning and purpose behind it was something she couldn't understand. The Zorvans observed as Sergeant Harris and his soldiers cleaned their rifles and discussed their mission. The soldiers spoke not of the power of their weapons, but of their duty to protect their fellow humans, to defend their families, and to preserve peace. The Zorvans were stunned. They had always seen themselves as superior, their technology far beyond the reach of these humans, but they realized now that perhaps there was something deeper at play here, something they didn't yet understand. For the first time, the Zorvans began to wonder if the humans weren't as primitive as they seemed. There was something about them, something that went beyond their technology. Perhaps humanity's reliance on old weapons was not a weakness, but a strength. Zira felt a new kind of respect for these humans, a respect that wasn't based on their technology, but on their spirit, their willingness to fight for what they believed in. "Let us learn more," Zira said quietly, her voice filled with a newfound admiration. "We need to understand why these humans are so different. They may not have the power we possess, but they have something we do not." After witnessing the humans in their training, Commander Zira's curiosity grew stronger. There was something about the soldiers' connection to their old-fashioned weapons that seemed different from what the Zorvans had expected. They weren't simply tools of destruction to the humans. They were symbols, tools of pride, and tools of purpose. Zira decided it was time to learn more. She ordered the Zorvans to observe humans more closely, especially their reliance on their old firearms. The Zorvans had seen many civilizations in their travels, but none had behaved like this. The humans didn't simply fight for survival. They fought with passion, with heart, and with deep personal meaning. For days, the Zorvans remained in the shadows, carefully watching the humans at work. They followed soldiers as they performed their daily routines, observing them as they cleaned their rifles, loaded ammunition, and practiced their aim. They even watched as soldiers trained with bows and arrows, another relic from humanity's past. But there was something fascinating about the way these soldiers approached their tasks. They seemed at peace with their weapons, as though they were part of them, not just objects to be used. One day, Zira decided to take a different approach. She had been studying human behavior, trying to understand why these weapons meant so much to them. And now she wanted to see it firsthand. She ordered a small team of Zorvans to get closer to the human soldiers. The Zorvans could remain hidden in the shadows, invisible to the humans, but they needed to understand the personal connection the humans had to their tools of war. They carefully followed a group of soldiers into a training ground, where they watched as the humans went through different combat exercises. This time, the Zorvans focused not just on the weapons, but on the soldiers themselves, their faces, their expressions, their actions. There was a focus in the soldiers' eyes, a determination that the Zorvans had not seen before. Among the soldiers, Zira noticed one man in particular, a young private named Luke. He was quiet but moved with purpose, always making sure to help his fellow soldiers when they needed it. Unlike the others, he didn't boast about his skills or the power of his weapon. Instead, Luke talked about how important it was to trust in the weapon, to know it as well as one's own body. The Zorvans observed as he cleaned his rifle with great care, wiping down every part with precision. It wasn't a machine to him. It was something he had learned to understand over the years, something he had come to rely on. Zira, intrigued by this private, decided to approach him, not directly, of course, but through one of her undercover agents. She sent a Zorvan operative disguised as a human soldier to speak with Luke. The Zorvan agent, who had been learning the ways of humans for some time, introduced himself as a new recruit and asked Luke for advice on how to use the rifle. Luke, not suspecting anything, smiled and began explaining the importance of knowing the weapon inside and out. "The rifle may look simple," he said, "but it's reliable. It's always there when you need it. The trick is to know it so well that it feels like an extension of your own body. You can't just pick it up and expect it to work. You have to understand how it works, what it needs, and what it can do." The Zorvans watched in silence, recording every word. They were surprised to see how seriously Luke took the weapon, and how he spoke about it not just as a tool of war, but as something that gave him confidence. It was clear that the rifle wasn't just a machine to him. It was a symbol of his training, his duty, and his connection to his fellow soldiers. After their conversation, the Zorvans observed Luke practicing his shooting. He wasn't the best marksman in the group, but there was something unique about his method. He took his time, making sure each shot was perfectly aligned, and didn't rush through the process. It was as though the rifle had become a part of him, something he respected and understood deeply. Zira watched all of this closely. It became more and more clear to her that the humans weren't relying on their old weapons out of necessity alone. There was something deeper at play. These weapons, in their simplicity, gave the humans something no advanced weapon could offer. They offered a connection to their past, to their history, and to the values that define them as a species. They trust these weapons because they trust themselves, Zira whispered to her team, her voice filled with awe. These humans don't just use technology to survive. They use it to define who they are, to remind themselves of their strength. The Zorvans had believed their technology made them invincible, but now they realized they had overlooked something far more powerful, the human spirit. The more they observed, the more they saw that humanity's true strength didn't lie in their weapons, but in their will to survive and protect each other. The Zorvans began to wonder if the humans' attachment to these old weapons was not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of their strength. Commander Zira felt a shift in her thoughts. At first, she had seen humans as primitive creatures, still clinging to outdated weapons from their past. But now, after watching them for several days, she began to realize that there was more to it. The humans weren't just using old weapons because they didn't have anything better. They were using them because they believed in something greater than technology. Zira sat alone in the quiet control room of the Zorvan ship, staring at the data they had gathered. Her mind raced as she processed what she had learned. Humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to protect what mattered most: family, friends, and the values they held dear. And the weapons they used were a reflection of that. While the Zorvans relied on advanced technology, weapons that could level cities and wipe out entire armies in seconds, the humans relied on something more personal. Zira had witnessed it firsthand. She remembered watching Luke as he took great care in cleaning his rifle, talking about how it was an extension of himself. For Luke and many other soldiers, their weapon was more than just a tool. It was a part of their identity. The Zorvans had once believed that only advanced technology could bring victory. But now, they weren't so sure. The humans had something that the Zorvans didn't fully understand. A kind of spirit, a connection to their history, to their ancestors, that made them stronger than just the sum of their weapons. It was clear to Zira that humans had an incredible resilience. Despite their relatively small size compared to the advanced civilizations of the galaxy, they refused to back down. They weren't afraid to fight for what they believed in, even if it meant using weapons that were considered outdated by galactic standards. Zira's thoughts were interrupted when one of her officers, Lieutenant Thar, entered the room. He had been observing the humans with Zira for the past few days, and he had his own questions about the situation. "Commander," Thar began, "I've been reviewing the data, and I'm starting to see it too. These humans, they don't just rely on their weapons. They rely on each other. Their bonds are so strong, so deep. It's like their strength comes from their unity." Zira nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, that's something I've noticed as well. They don't just fight as individuals. They fight together. They protect each other. Their connection to their weapons is part of that, but it's their connection to one another that truly gives them power." Thar was quiet for a moment, processing Zira's words. Could this be what makes them so resilient? They don't just have technology. They have the will to protect what matters to them. Zira leaned back in her chair, her eyes focused on the monitors displaying footage of the humans. Exactly. Their strength isn't in their guns or their bombs. It's in their hearts. Their ability to bond with each other and to never give up, no matter how hard the battle. They fight because they believe in something bigger than themselves. The Zorvans had always believed that advanced technology was the key to power. But now, they were seeing that there was something else at play on Earth. The humans' ability to stay united in the face of danger, to trust each other even in the toughest situations, was a form of strength the Zorvans had never experienced. As Zira watched the humans continue their training, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. She had seen countless civilizations across the galaxy, many far more advanced than Earth, But none of them had the kind of spirit that these humans possessed. They didn't just fight for survival. They fought for a cause. They fought for their families, their country, and their future. It was this belief, this unbreakable spirit, that made them so dangerous. Zira knew that if the Zorvans were to face humanity in battle, they would have to be prepared for more than just advanced technology. They would have to face the heart and soul of these humans, their strength, their unity, and their unshakable will. They trust these weapons because they trust themselves, Zira whispered to her team, her voice filled with awe. These humans don't just use technology to survive. They use it to define who they are, to remind themselves of their strength. The Zorvans had believed their technology made them invincible, but now they realized they had overlooked something far more powerful, the human spirit. The more they observed, the more they saw that humanity's true strength didn't lie in their weapons, but in their will to survive and protect each other. The Zorvans began to wonder if the humans' attachment to these old weapons was not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of their strength. Commander Zira felt a shift in her thoughts. At first, she had seen humans as primitive creatures, still clinging to outdated weapons from their past. But now, after watching them for several days, she began to realize that there was more to it. The humans weren't just using old weapons because they didn't have anything better. They were using them because they believed in something greater than technology. Zira sat alone in the quiet control room of the Zorvan ship, staring at the data they had gathered. Her mind raced as she processed what she had learned. Humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to protect what mattered most: family, friends, and the values they held dear. And the weapons they used were a reflection of that. While the Zorvans relied on advanced technology, weapons that could level cities and wipe out entire armies in seconds, the humans relied on something more personal. Zira had witnessed it firsthand. She remembered watching Luke as he took great care in cleaning his rifle, talking about how it was an extension of himself. For Luke and many other soldiers, their weapon was more than just a tool. It was a part of their identity. The Zorvans had once believed that only advanced technology could bring victory. But now, they weren't so sure. The humans had something that the Zorvans didn't fully understand. A kind of spirit, a connection to their history, to their ancestors, that made them stronger than just the sum of their weapons. It was clear to Zira that humans had an incredible resilience. Despite their relatively small size compared to the advanced civilizations of the galaxy, they refused to back down. They weren't afraid to fight for what they believed in, even if it meant using weapons that were considered outdated by galactic standards. Zira's thoughts were interrupted when one of her officers, Lieutenant Thar, entered the room. He had been observing the humans with Zira for the past few days, and he had his own questions about the situation. "Commander," Thar began, "I've been reviewing the data, and I'm starting to see it too. These humans, they don't just rely on their weapons. They rely on each other. Their bonds are so strong, so deep. It's like their strength comes from their unity." Zira nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, that's something I've noticed as well. They don't just fight as individuals. They fight together. They protect each other. Their connection to their weapons is part of that, but it's their connection to one another that truly gives them power." Thar was quiet for a moment, processing Zira's words. Could this be what makes them so resilient? They don't just have technology. They have the will to protect what matters to them. Zira leaned back in her chair, her eyes focused on the monitors displaying footage of the humans. Exactly. Their strength isn't in their guns or their bombs. It's in their hearts. Their ability to bond with each other and to never give up, no matter how hard the battle. They fight because they believe in something bigger than themselves. The Zorvans had always believed that advanced technology was the key to power. But now, they were seeing that there was something else at play on Earth. The humans' ability to stay united in the face of danger, to trust each other even in the toughest situations, was a form of strength the Zorvans had never experienced. As Zira watched the humans continue their training, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. She had seen countless civilizations across the galaxy, many far more advanced than Earth, but none of them had the kind of spirit that these humans possessed. They didn't just fight for survival. They fought for a cause. They fought for their families, their country, and their future. It was this belief, this unbreakable spirit, that made them so dangerous. Zira knew that if the Zorvans were to face humanity in battle, they would have to be prepared for more than just advanced technology. They would have to face the heart and soul of these humans, their strength, their unity, and their unshakable will. "We must learn more," Zira said softly, more to herself than to her officers. "We must understand what makes them fight like this. We must understand why they will never give up." Thar nodded in agreement. "If we can understand their strength, we may be able to predict how they will respond in a confrontation." Zira's eyes narrowed. "It's not just about prediction. It's about respect. We must respect them, not just as soldiers, but as people. They have something we do not." The Zorvans had been planning their next move for days, but now Zira felt uncertain. They had come to Earth seeking to learn about the humans and their primitive weapons, but what they had discovered was far beyond their expectations. The humans were not weak. They were not primitive. They were strong in ways the Zorvans couldn't even begin to understand. As Zira looked out over the planet, she knew one thing for sure. Humanity's true strength wasn't in their weapons. It was in their hearts. Commander Zira stood at the observation deck of the Zorvan ship, looking down at Earth. The humans, with their old weapons and unwavering spirit, had captured her thoughts completely. She had been sent to study them, to understand their reliance on outdated technology, but what she had discovered was far more complex. Zira had seen countless civilizations, each more advanced than the last. Some relied on machines for everything, machines that did the thinking, the fighting, the surviving. But the humans, despite their relatively small and fragile bodies, had something none of these civilizations had. They had a heart that beat for something greater than themselves, a heart that bound them together in unity. As she reflected on what she had learned, Zira felt a strange sense of admiration for the humans. She had come to Earth with the expectation of studying primitive behavior, but now she realized there was so much more beneath the surface. These humans were not just surviving. They were thriving. Not because of their advanced technology, but because of their willpower, their belief in each other, and their refusal to give up in the face of adversity. "Commander, we intercepted a transmission from the humans." Lieutenant Thar's voice interrupted her thoughts. He stepped forward, holding a datapad that displayed a series of communications between human commanders. Zira turned to face him. "What is it?" "The humans are preparing for a major operation," Thar continued. "They're planning to engage a much larger enemy force. They don't have the same kind of weapons or technology as their opponents, but their strategy focuses on their unity. They're relying on teamwork, not on strength or firepower." Zira's curiosity piqued. "Tell me more." Thar tapped the screen, showing the details of the operation. It was a risky mission, one that could easily end in failure. The humans were up against an enemy that far outnumbered them and had more advanced weapons. But the human commanders had emphasized something else in their planning. Trust. Trust in each other, in their comrades, and in the bonds they had formed. "These humans truly believe in the power of unity," Zira murmured. "They don't just see the battlefield as a place to fight. They see it as a place to protect each other, to fight together as one." Thar nodded. "That's what I've noticed too. It's not just their weapons or technology. It's their ability to come together and support each other that makes them strong." Zira was silent for a moment, contemplating this new revelation. The more she learned about humanity, the more she realized how little she understood. She had spent so much time studying their weapons and their technology, trying to figure out what made them dangerous. But now she saw that it wasn't just about the weapons. It was about the humans' hearts. Their strength lay in their willingness to fight for each other, to risk everything to protect their families and their way of life. As she continued to observe the humans preparing for the battle, Zira couldn't help but feel a growing respect for them. She had always believed that victory came through superior technology, that the side with the best weapons would always win. But the humans were proving her wrong. They were showing her that sometimes it wasn't about the weapons at all. It was about the people who wielded them. "Commander, we've also intercepted a message from one of the human commanders," Thar added, breaking Zira's thoughts. "It's addressed to his troops." Zira raised an eyebrow. "What does it say?" Thar read aloud from the datapad. "We are not the strongest, we are not the most advanced, but we are the ones who will stand. We will fight, not because we have to, but because we choose to. We fight for each other, for our families, for our future. And no enemy, no matter how large, can ever take that away from us." The words hit Zira like a thunderclap. She had heard speeches from military leaders before, but none of them had ever been like this. This wasn't just a call to arms. It was a call to something deeper. It was a reminder of the human spirit, the unbreakable will to protect those they loved, no matter the cost. "This is what makes them dangerous," Zira whispered to herself. "Not their weapons, but their spirit." As the Zorvans continued to observe the humans, Zira felt something shift within her. She had come to Earth with the belief that the Zorvans were superior, more advanced, more powerful. But now she wasn't so sure. The humans had a strength that no technology could replicate. It wasn't in their guns, their bombs, or their machines. It was in their unity, in their will to fight for each other. Zira looked at Thar. "Prepare the team. I want us to learn everything we can about this battle. We need to understand why they fight the way they do." Thar nodded. "Yes, Commander. I believe this is the key to understanding the humans." As the Zorvans watched the humans prepare for battle, Zira knew that things were changing. She had thought she understood what made a civilization powerful, but the humans were teaching her a different lesson. They were showing her that true strength came not from technology or weapons, but from the heart, the unbreakable human spirit. And that, Zira realized, was something the Zorvans had never truly understood. The day of the battle arrived sooner than Zira had expected. The humans were preparing for a confrontation with a much larger enemy force, one that had advanced technology far superior to anything the humans had. But Zira had spent enough time watching the humans to know that their greatest strength wasn't in their weapons, it was in their hearts. As she stood in the control room of the Zorvan ship, Zira couldn't help but feel a strange sense of anticipation. She had watched the humans train, watched them fight, and now she was about to witness firsthand what made them so powerful. It wasn't their superior technology, their firepower, or their machines. It was something deeper. The humans didn't just fight for survival. They fought for each other. They fought for their families, their communities, their homes. They fought because they believed in something greater than themselves. Zira had seen it in the way they worked together, how they trusted each other with their lives. They had an unspoken bond that made them stronger than the sum of their parts. Zira's thoughts were interrupted as the battle began. The humans launched their attack, moving in unison, their old-fashioned weapons ready for the fight. Zira watched in awe as the humans, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a determination that was unmatched. Their strategy was simple but effective. They used the terrain to their advantage, moving swiftly and silently through the landscape. They didn't charge in recklessly. They waited for the right moment, working together as a single unit. Every move was calculated, every decision made with the lives of their comrades in mind. Zira observed their tactics closely. It wasn't just about individual skill. It was about the teamwork, the coordination. The humans communicated without words, reading each other's movements, anticipating each other's actions. It was as if they could sense each other's intentions, as if they were all connected by an invisible thread. One of the human commanders, a tall man named Captain Harris, stood at the front, guiding his troops with calm precision. Zira could see the respect his soldiers had for him. They followed his lead without question, trusting his judgment completely. It wasn't just his experience that made him a leader. It was his ability to inspire his people, to make them believe in their mission. "We will win this battle." Captain Harris's voice echoed over the communication channel, filled with conviction. "Not because we have the best weapons, but because we fight together. We fight for each other. And that is the strength that no enemy can ever take from us." Zira felt a chill run down her spine. She had never heard anything like it before. The humans weren't just fighting for victory. They were fighting for each other, for their shared purpose. It was a bond that couldn't be broken, a force that no weapon could overcome. As the battle raged on, the humans began to push the enemy back. The Zorvans watched in disbelief as the humans, despite being outmatched in every way, held their ground. It wasn't just luck. It was their unity, their unwavering belief in each other that made them so strong. Zira's eyes narrowed as she watched Captain Harris lead his soldiers through a series of coordinated maneuvers. He was calm, focused, and every move he made seemed to inspire those around him. It was clear that he wasn't just a commander. He was the heart of his unit. His presence gave his soldiers the courage they needed to keep fighting, even when the odds were against them. It was a sight that Zira would never forget. The humans, against all odds, were winning. Their strategy was working, and the enemy, despite their superior numbers and technology, was beginning to falter. "This is impossible," Lieutenant Thar muttered, his eyes wide in disbelief. "How are they doing this?" Zira didn't answer immediately. She was too absorbed in the battle unfolding before her eyes. The humans weren't just relying on their weapons. They were relying on each other. And that, Zira realized, was the key to their strength. As the battle drew to a close, it became clear that the humans had won. The enemy forces, disoriented and demoralized by the humans' relentless fighting, had begun to retreat. Zira felt a sense of awe wash over her as she watched the humans celebrate their victory. They weren't celebrating because they had won. They were celebrating because they had fought together and protected each other. The Zorvans had come to Earth expecting to witness a primitive, disorganized people who relied on outdated weapons. Instead, they had found a civilization unlike any other. The humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving. And they were doing it together. Zira looked at Thar, who was still in shock from what he had just witnessed. This is what makes them dangerous," Zira said softly. "Not their weapons, not their technology, but their unity. Their ability to come together as one, to fight for each other, is what makes them strong." Thar nodded slowly. "We underestimated them. We thought they were weak. But they are stronger than we could ever have imagined." Zira's gaze remained fixed on the humans as they celebrated their victory. She had come to Earth to study them, to understand their dependence on old-fashioned weapons. But what she had discovered went far beyond that. The humans had something that no advanced technology could replace: their spirit, their unity, and their unwavering belief in each other. And that, Zira realized, was what made them truly unstoppable. The days that followed the battle were filled with intense reflection. Zira and Lieutenant Thar had witnessed something extraordinary on the battlefield. What the humans lacked in advanced technology, they more than made up for with their unity, creativity, and determination. It was a revelation that shook Zira to her core. As they reviewed the footage of the battle, Zira couldn't help but think about the humans' resilience. While the Zorvans believed that technology was the key to power, the humans showed them that it was something deeper, something intangible, that made them formidable. "There's something about them," Zira said quietly, almost to herself. "It's not just their weapons, it's their will." Thar, still processing the battle, nodded. "They fight with a purpose. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. They don't just fight for victory. They fight for each other." Zira paused the video and looked over at Thar. "I think we've been looking at this all wrong. We came here thinking the humans were primitive, but they're far from it. Their greatest strength isn't in what they have, but in who they are." Thar was silent for a moment. Then he looked at Zira, his expression thoughtful. "You're right. They may not have the advanced technology we have, but they have something we don't. Their spirit. It was a moment of realization for both of them. The Zorvans had always prided themselves on their advanced technology and their superiority over other races, but the humans had something that no amount of technology could replicate, something that made them resilient in the face of adversity. Zira couldn't help but think about the humans they had observed in the past weeks, the soldiers who had fought with unwavering determination, the leaders who inspired their people with a quiet strength, and the civilians who worked together to rebuild after the battle. It was clear to her now, the humans were far more than just a primitive species. They were survivors, fighters, and above all, a people who valued one another. "I want to know more about them," Zira said, her voice filled with curiosity. "I want to understand what drives them, what makes them so strong, even when everything seems stacked against them." Thar raised an eyebrow. His interest piqued. "You're thinking of staying longer?" Zira nodded, her gaze fixed on the planet below. "Yes, I think we need to see more of their world. We need to understand their culture, their values, their way of life. If we're going to truly understand what makes them dangerous, we need to see them for who they really are." Thar didn't hesitate. "I'll stay too. If they're as strong as you say, then we need to learn everything we can." Over the next few days, Zira and Thar immersed themselves in the lives of the humans. They observed their everyday routines, visited their communities, and spoke with their leaders. What they found was astonishing. The humans had built their societies around cooperation and mutual respect. While there were differences between them, they worked hard to overcome those differences for the greater good. Whether it was through diplomacy, trade, or shared labor, the humans always found a way to come together, to unite for a common cause. One of the most striking things Zira noticed was the way humans valued knowledge. Everywhere she went, she saw libraries, schools, and research centers. The humans were constantly seeking to improve themselves, to learn, to grow. It was a thirst for knowledge that seemed to drive everything they did. Zira also observed the way humans treated their environment. Despite the challenges they faced, they were committed to preserving the planet they called home. They had developed technologies to clean the air, purify the water, and restore their ecosystems. It was a far cry from the Zorvans' approach to resource extraction, which often left destruction in its wake. As Zira watched the humans interact with each other and their world, she began to understand why they were so strong. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something greater. They were fighting to protect their families, their communities, and their planet. The more Zira learned, the more she admired them. She saw how their courage came not from brute strength, but from their unwavering belief in each other. It was a belief that transcended technology, that transcended borders and differences. It was a belief that gave them the power to endure, to adapt, and to overcome. Zira felt a shift within herself. She had come to Earth with the goal of studying the humans and understanding why they still relied on old-fashioned weapons. But what she had discovered was far more profound. The human strength came from their unity, their compassion, and their endless capacity to adapt and grow. As Zira looked out at the Earth from her ship, she knew that the Zorvans had underestimated humanity. They had seen the humans as a primitive species, unworthy of attention. But Zira now understood that humanity was a force to be reckoned with, a force that could change the course of any battle, any conflict, simply by standing together. "I think," Zira said softly, "we have much to learn from them." Thar nodded. "Yes, they may not have the technology we have, but they have something far more powerful." Zira turned to face him, her eyes filled with respect. They have each other. And that, she realized, was what made humanity truly unstoppable. As the days passed, Zira and Thar's observations of the humans began to shape their understanding in ways they had never expected. What they had initially thought was a simple mission to study and assess humanity had become something far more complex and revealing. The strength of humanity was not just in their weapons, or even their unity. It was in their hearts and minds, a strength built on compassion, creativity, and an unyielding drive to protect those they loved. Zira sat alone in her quarters, watching the Earth through her ship's window. The planet was beautiful. Its oceans, mountains, and forests were like nothing she had ever seen before. There was something calming about it, something that made her feel both small and connected at the same time. It was as if the very planet itself reflected the human spirit, wild, untamed, but full of hope. Thar's voice suddenly interrupted her thoughts. "Zira, are you ready to go? We have our report to submit." Zira turned and smiled at him. "I'm not sure I'm ready anymore." Thar raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I came here to study them, to learn about their weakness. But now I've seen it. They don't have the weakness we thought they did." Zira paused, her gaze drifting back to Earth. "They don't break. They bend, but they don't break. They adapt. They fight for each other, and that makes them stronger than anything we could have imagined." Thar walked over and stood beside her, looking out at the planet as well. "You're saying they're not so easy to defeat?" Zira nodded. "Exactly. Their power doesn't lie in their weapons or technology. It lies in their hearts. They will fight for each other, for their families, their communities, their planet. That is a power that no army can defeat." Thar was silent for a moment, processing what Zira had said. "I see what you mean. I didn't understand before, but now I do. There's a strength in them that we can't replicate. It's like a force of nature." Zira smiled again, this time with a sense of respect. "Yes, and it's not something that can be taken away. No matter how much we try to overpower them, we will never break their spirit." Thar let out a deep sigh. "So, what do we do now?" Zira's eyes shone with determination. "We do what we should have done from the beginning. We need to go back to Zorva, and we need to report the truth. The humans are not to be underestimated. They are not just a primitive species. They are powerful in ways we didn't understand. And if we are going to have a future with them, it will be as equals, not as conquerors." Thar's expression softened as he nodded. "You're right. We've been so focused on our own power that we forgot to see them for who they truly are. I think we've learned a valuable lesson here." Zira turned away from the window and faced Thar. "Yes, and it's time to share that lesson with the rest of the galaxy. We cannot continue to view the humans as weak or inferior. They are a force to be reckoned with, and it would be wise for us to approach them with respect." Thar stood tall, his posture filled with newfound resolve. "We'll make sure the truth is known. The Zorvans will hear us. We may not be able to change everything overnight, but we can start by telling them what we've seen." As they prepared to leave, Zira felt a sense of peace. She had come to Earth with one idea in mind, but she was leaving with something far more profound. The humans had shown her that strength was not always about power or technology. It was about will, unity, and love. The Zorvans had their advanced technology, their weapons, their ships, but the humans had something else, something more valuable than any of that. The ability to stand together, to fight together, and to protect what mattered most. As Zira and Thar boarded their ship and began the journey back to Zorva, Zira couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. Maybe the future didn't have to be one of conflict. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way for the Zorvans and humans to coexist, to learn from each other, and to build something better. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and disagreements. But Zira knew that, in the end, it was worth it. The humans had shown her that peace, real peace, was possible, not through domination or fear, but through understanding, respect, and unity. As the ship zoomed through space, Zira's thoughts drifted back to Earth, to the humans she had come to admire. She had seen the strength of humanity firsthand, and it had changed her forever. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the humans would not be easily defeated. And that was something worth respecting. With a deep breath, Zira looked ahead at the stars, knowing that a new chapter was about to begin. A chapter where understanding, not war, would guide the way forward.